Wow, we're out of square. Like many of you, I'm trying to build my first sets of cabinets. And while doing my research, I got bombarded with different opinions and techniques. So that made me wonder, as a beginner myself, which method is actually the most beginner-friendly, durable and accurate. So today we are testing 3 different methods to build cabinets. Number 3 is rarely talked about, and I really don't understand why. But before we get into the different techniques though, we have to break down our plywood. I'm using my trusty track saw to break down my sheets of ply to manageable size before we go to my table saw. Okay, I broke them down to rough dimension. Right now I have one reference edge where I referenced all the crosscuts to, and I'm marking that now because this is gonna be my reference edge for everything. As usual in woodworking, you obviously can break down your materials in a multitude of ways. Circular saw in the H-guide works, the table saw works, the track saw like I used, miter saws, like all the saws really work. If you are one of those hand tool fanatics, you could even use a simple hand saw. What I'm trying to say here is, don't limit yourself because you don't have the tools available like other woodworkers. Just use what you got. In my experience, the only difference it really makes to have fancier tools is speed. For example, a hand saw will take much longer than a circular saw. So the better the tool, the faster you are. So now this is done, we're looking at which one of these techniques will be the easiest, the most durable, and gives us the most accurate result. So for the first cabinet, we're using screws and glue. And because I have no idea what I'm doing, I will try to use as many offcuts as possible. It will be also the first practice round before we build the cabinets of our miter saw station. Screws and glue is probably the most straightforward method and easiest one out there. It doesn't require any fancy joinery tools. You basically need a drill. That's it, I think. I will be using my narrow crown stapler though for clamping purposes only. This one I have is a cheap one from Ryobi. Great bang for your buck. It just helps me to keep everything aligned. The big advantage of this method, it's super easy. The screws give you a strong mechanical fastening and the glue adds even more strength to the joint. But there are also a couple of downsides. The screws are visible, which might not look the best. So that might not be suitable for your cabinet right now that you want to build. And if you're not careful with your alignment, the panels can shift around while you're assembling everything. And you might end up with a cabinet that's not 100% square. Okay, how square are we? Because I never checked once. Wow, we're out of square. Jesus Christ, how did that happen? I have here like an offcut that is actually fits pretty perfect onto the back here. And also I push it into square, absolutely, and then that would hold it into square as well. I think that's gonna work. So we're gonna pre-drill our screw holes and then we put some screws in. This cabinet is going to be on casters and can be moved around a lot. It will live under my table saw and will hold a couple of odd things and bits from the table saw and table saw accessories. Because I don't really like that messy look of that open cabinet, I might try to build my first ever shaker style door. Yeah. Let's do that. I have this pine offcut and I think it will make the perfect frame for our door. I'm cutting my parts to size and I also try to miter my rails and stiles. Yes, they're called rails and stiles, which I didn't know either. I didn't realize that this is even a thing, but woodworkers love to tell you that's how they're called, and some even scream it in some shops.
Show me your rails and stiles.
Okay, let's move on. I'm cutting a groove in the inside of my rails and stiles so I can slide in a panel before I assemble my frame. I simply glue and clamp them together with some tape and I hope that will do. So unfortunately my camera died when I tried to mount that, but again I really mounted it with this very simple method here. You can see that, just 2 hinges. And this is the final result of our shaker style door. Very ugly, but it's mine. The cabinet itself is still super solid, really nice. It's on wheels, so if I want to wheel it around, I can do that. And most of the time it stays here underneath my table saw and holds all my push sticks and a couple of other odd things from the miter. So one of my circular saws and this belt sander that I'm not using as often. There are some obvious shortcomings with this method. Let's see how screws and glue stack up to the next very related technique, pocket holes. This technique is controversial at best, but very popular among woodworkers while building cabinets because it makes assembly quick and easy while still giving you a strong joint. The basic idea is that you use a pocket hole jig like this cheap one here from Milescraft and drill angled holes into one piece of wood. And then you drive a screw through these holes into another piece to join two pieces of wood together. The jig comes with a step drill bit that drills a pilot hole and the pocket holes in one shot. So you just clamp your woodworking piece into the jig, set your depth and drill away. Once you have got your pocket holes drilled, the assembly process is pretty straightforward. You're going to apply glue to the surfaces, just like with the screws and glue method. Then you line up the pieces and drive in the pocket hole screws. There are special pocket hole screws for that as well. One of the big advantages of pocket holes is speed. You don't have to wait for the glue to dry before moving on because the screws are doing all the work of holding things together. This can be a huge time saver, especially on a beginner project. Another plus is that you don't necessarily need clamps because the screws pull everything tight. So I just finished the pocket hole cabinet and then I put it there and it was actually dead on flat. So I wanted to put a toe kick underneath and then I ran a community poll on my Instagram page and everyone voted to put a drawer on top of it. So I will. There are a couple of potential downsides to pocket holes. First off, the holes will be visible on the inside or outside of your cabinets unless you plug them or cover them up somehow. They do sell specific pocket hole plugs, but it's an extra step and an extra cost. The other thing to watch out for is alignment. Pocket hole screws do try to shift the workpiece once tightened. The setup time takes a little longer and you need a jig for it as well. For that, you might be able to hide the pocket holes because they are on the outside of the cabinet. So obviously I messed up here bad with the addition of the top parts. This shows planning in building cabinets is really crucial. Usually I do wing most of everything, but here it really pays off to have at least a rough idea what you want to do. This was a good exercise though, to see how much a face frame can actually fix or hide things, and it turned out quite well. As you can see here, the pocket hole one turned out nice. We messed up a lot here with the measurements and you can feel it if you grab it. There's a little bit of a lip here and here. With that face frame, we hit that quite nicely. It is nice and square and super sturdy. We also put in a couple of sustainer storage here, which is super useful. This one holds my sander and the bottom one holds my track. So they're very easy to make. I basically just glued and tagged everything together. And then I went to Bunnings, got some cheap drawer hardware, and then I mounted them in. It looks pretty similar to the best cabinet I built so far, which is the next one. Before I show you that cabinet though, let's see how pocket holes stick up to the next technique that really nobody is talking about in any beginner videos, the biscuit. Now, if you're like me, you might be thinking, what the heck is a biscuit jointer? Well, it's actually a super cool tool that lets you join two pieces of wood together using these little pieces of oval wood biscuits. And no, you can't eat them. I tried. No good. Here's how it works. The biscuit jointer cuts these slots into the edge and the face of your plywood. Then you squirt some glue into the slots, pop in the biscuit and clamp the whole thing together. As the glue dries, it expands and really locks the biscuits in place, creating a super strong bond with the glue. The biggest advantage there is it's perfectly aligned and square as long as you cut the slots correctly. Using a biscuit jointer actually is pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it. First off, you want to make sure that the edges of your ply is nice and smooth. Then you're going to grab a pencil and mark out where you want your biscuit slots to go. This is important because you want to make sure the slots on both pieces match up perfectly. Next, you're going to set the depth of the biscuit jointer based on the size of the biscuits you are using. There are a few common sizes like 0, 10 and 20. Once you've got that dialed in, You just hold the jointer tight against your wood and line it up with your mark and push the blade down and cut your slot. Repeat that for all your marked spots and you're ready to glue. Speaking of glue, you want to be generous here. Squirt a good amount into each slot onto your biscuits. Then just pop the biscuits into the slot, line up your pieces and clamp everything together. I'm using again my narrow crown stapler because I can't wait if I don't have this option, because I don't want to see the staples in my cabinet, like the glue to set up overnight. So, how does the biscuit jointer method stack up against screws and pocket holes? Well, I'd say it's pretty user-friendly. But where the biscuit jointer really shines is accuracy, and that makes it super fast as well. Because the biscuits are keeping everything aligned. You don't need to double check constantly. The joints are super precise and square. And because this joiner method is completely hidden, your cabinets are looking really professional. This one is the biscuit jointed one. I think the best one I made. It was also the last one I made. But it's absolutely square and it's super sturdy. I also dated in this shelf, which turned out awesome as well. I wanted to try a non-hardware drawer with just plywood, but the part pins here are just too heavy. So I had to actually replace them and put them on some hardware, the same hardware I had from Bunnings for the other drawers. So that works now really well, but beforehand it was just getting stuck constantly because the part pins were too heavy. So this is the improvement I made there already. I have to think of what to do there. It's storage for my miter saw. As of now, I always left the miter saw up there, so I have to do something here because it's just offcuts at the moment. So after finishing these 3 techniques, and now it's a month later, we have tested all 3 cabinets. Each method had its strengths and weaknesses, but in the end, there's one that is a clear favorite for me. First of all, every single one of them are plenty strong. And I don't think there's a clear winner here, at least for those applications I'm using them for. Screws and glues offer simplicity, but alignment could be tricky. And you saw that in my cabinet. It was off by a lot. Pocket holes can be a little slower, and it also was hard to keep everything square, but the alignment was a bit easier than with screws and glues alone. With biscuits, keeping everything aligned was super simple, and because there was no hardware used, they really looked professional. Plus, the streamlined process made it quicker than the other techniques. Yes, this is the most expensive one of them all because you need a biscuit jointer and the biscuits. The biscuit jointer probably is my favorite because I'm so bad in cabinet making. I need every help I can get, and that tool makes it super easy to get everything perfect in the first try. So depending on what cabinets you are building, all of these techniques have their place. Use what you have got already for your first cabinet. Now, if you really want to level up your cabinet game, you want to watch this video next, where I'm implementing the cabinets we built in this video in my brand new miter saw station. And as always guys, I appreciate you and I see you next time.